Welcome to another of my tutorials. For whoever has been following me for a while, I do mostly architectural paintings in watercolor, and they are mostly about Florence, Italy. And the reason for that is because I live there and I really love the city. I always did. And it's a Renaissance city, as in every time you look around, you see Renaissance. That particular historic period of time that is lingering around, and most of the city has not been changed since the 1500s. So obviously there is the mark of time on the city, as in it's a city absolutely filled with construction, because what what they're trying to do is they're trying to preserve the old stones that are in the city. And I'm not kidding here when I tell you that there are studies by the city architects that involve the single stones in not just in important basilicas like the Duomo of Florence, but in regular houses. You're not allowed to move or to change anything in a historic house unless it's approved, and they will reposition single stones in order to preserve the historic characteristic of a certain building. So what I'm painting here right now is two windows. Now, there is a lot of these windows around, although they have a certain Venetian from Venice, kind of a feeling from Venice, because it's a window that has two openings with a little column in the middle. And there was a specific reason to build windows like these, which, by the way, are called bifora. So bifora, literally in Italian, and I'm guessing this is a Latin name. I'm guessing, sorry, my microphone died. This is a Latin word that means two holes. And basically, that's what they are. And they are windows, very ancient windows with two holes in it. And it's surprisingly interesting because they bring a lot of light inside without compromising the structural features of the building. You can open a lot of space in a wall without actually giving up the structural integrity of the top part, which is sometimes a problem, especially in old buildings when materials were still only single bricks or really big pieces of stone. But those pieces of stone are difficult to carry, difficult to find, and so it was extremely difficult to even conceive big windows. You could do so. There is a part of on the top of the window and doors that in Italian it's called architrave, and I don't know exactly what is it called in English. What the term is? It's an architectural term, and it's basically they would put a wooden plank or a wooden block on top of the windows and the doors, so they would carry the weight of the building on the top of it. Now, wood, as we know, decays a lot faster than stone and brick. And so it was a very temporary way to do these windows. But there was another way that they found how to do this, and it's to create these little windows. In fact, there is another window, it's called trifora, which you probably guessed it. It's three little windows in a row, and they have the same exact function. It's to support the weight of the building above it. So biforas are not uncommon in Florence, and I've seen a lot of them, but they're mostly older buildings, and they are the kind of buildings that are they usually belong to very powerful families. So I'm going to translate this to you in plain English, which
If you
means
had the money, you could pay for the fancy window, and if you didn't, then you were out of luck. You just made a smaller window. Like many buildings in Florence and in the entire Italy, if they are medieval or Renaissance, they have very few windows. And having big windows, especially opened on a plaza or on a public place, that meant power. And architecture in Florence is a testament to this kind of power, because if we look at some very important buildings, like the Palazzo Vecchio, which is the the palace where the power of the Medici was executed, basically, it was their, I would say, parliament, or the not the White House, but the like the Congress. That's where they were making all the decisions. Now, Palazzo Vecchio is one bifora window after the other. And in the middle, in the center of each bifora in the Palazzo Vecchio, the Medici, like here you just see bricks. It's that part that's in the middle of the arch. But the Medici knew that they could use that for advertisement. And in fact, they put some, they're called bassorilievi, which is a sculpture that's actually flat and it kind of comes out. You can see the same one in the paradise doors in the Battistero. The baptistry in Florence has the same kind of sculptures. They just barely come out. So the Medici, to go back to our story, the Medici thought, why don't we rent space up there, and why don't we put important people there, like guilds, for example, entire guilds. They had their emblems and their designs up there. And I wish I could show you one, but I don't have a picture of it. But other very important palaces in Florence have a window that's a bifora. Okay, so to change the subject a little bit, I want to talk about the colors that I'm using. This is obviously a watercolor. And if you noticed at the beginning, I did some simple washes. And as a first wash, what I like to do is I like to put an ink down, because instead of watercolors, inks have a very vibrant back. If you put an ink down, it shines a lot more than watercolor. Watercolors tend to be dull because there is pigment in them. And so I prefer to start with an ink. And I can tell you that I have an ink. Well, the brand name doesn't really matter. Color. And sometimes it's called Terra di Siena, the 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 land, the dirt of Siena. And I already mentioned this in some other of my videos. Yes, if you go to Siena and you dig up a little bit of dirt in certain areas, not everywhere, but in certain areas, the dirt is literally brown red. And I have seen this with my own eyes. And so Terra di Siena is this ochre color, and I usually put that as a background. And then as I apply more details, you can put more pigment in the Terra di Siena and it becomes a little bit more yellowish. But I also use yellow, like bright yellow. Some people call it canary yellow. Um, it's not really canary yellow. It's called just dark yellow, and it's a very bright, vibrant yellow, and it's a warm color. And I want to put an emphasis here because many times you buy yellow and it's a cold color. There's a big distinction between cold and warm colors. And I'm using warm colors here because Terra di Siena is warm by itself. So when it becomes lighter and you need that yellow in it, it turns into a cold color, like a blue or a yellow. Like a blue or a green. Those are both very cold color on the cold palette. But the warm palette here is very important because all the buildings in Italy, they shine of this warm color and they reflect the color back to the streets. So that's very important. And then in order to do, well, the inside of the windows, the black side, that's of course black, but it's not completely black. I mixed some Prussian blue. So Prussian blue takes off the edge of the black color, which is, it's not supposed to be ever used as it is, as a black color. I kind of disagree with that, but that's what they say. And for shadows, like the shadows underneath the arches and underneath the columns, I use a variation. It's called terra di Siena bruciata. So it's sienna, which we already talked about before, but it's burnt. And so in fact, it doesn't matter what brand you buy, sometimes it's called burned sienna. Like I'm applying it right now here. This is burnt sienna, and it's simply the terra di Siena, but it's a lot darker. So these are basically the three basic colors, and then of course I have yellow and red and green for the flowers, but that's easy. Well, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.